Hello, I'm Andrew Malloy, the Automation Wizard, and I'm going to go through the very basics of Markdown, specifically how it relates to Obsidian. I'm not going to go through all the possibilities of Markdown. There's various flavors of Markdown, but just starting with the absolute basics of what Markdown is and what you probably need first to begin with, especially when using Obsidian. So Markdown is basically just a way of giving formatting information to plain text, and it's no more complex than that. So any kind of application that can interpret that and display that, it's very much how HTML and web pages work. It's just ultimately plain text that the browser interprets the markup in the web pages to display it in a certain way. Markdown was created so it would be also human readable, so it doesn't look as much like a programming language as HTML does. So even with just the plain text file, without any kind of processing to view how the markup would actually display, just seeing the markup itself, it's still pretty readable to humans, which is why it's been kind of adopted in quite a lot of areas. There were some limitations to the original Markdown in terms of what people wanted, which is why there's kind of branched off into certain different variations and extensions of things. But for now, you don't really need to know all of that until you come across a case of actually looking into needing something. So a lot of tools will import and use Markdown or export into Markdown. But what's great about Obsidian is that there's no importing or exporting. They're just local files that you have on your computer, and in Markdown it will be able to interpret that Markdown. There's no kind of proprietary underlying translation of the information, which means it's all in your control, and because it's as plain Markdown and just literal text files, you can then use it with other tools and other systems that can interpret the information, or just simply open as text files. So I'll just go through the very, very basics of what Markdown is. I mean, the first thing is, so I've just got a page open here, nothing in it. Literally, you can just type anything you want. So my first. And that's actually valid Markdown. It's just plain text with no formatting, so it's considered that just the normal type of text. But the main things you can do with this, so I think possibly I'm going to go through the 4 main Markdown options, basically. And then there are 2 that are actually more specific to Obsidian in terms of how it uses them, and they're becoming more standard. That I don't think they're officially Markdown as such, but they're certainly becoming a more standard way of using it, using that kind of Markdown. So first thing is, if you want a heading, then you use hash symbol, or pound if you're American. So there you go. Sometimes kind of more officially, you're meant to end it with a hash as well. So I tend to, because I feel like that would make it more compatible with other tools if needed. And as you can see in Obsidian, that's already kind of increased it to be like a heading. And this is heading 1, by the way, so it's the largest heading possible. In Obsidian, you can go to Preview, so it'll just get rid of the actual Markdown symbols themselves and just display the text in the right formatting. So I'll go back, and then from this alone, you can actually choose different levels of headings, I think down to 6 or more, and that's just simply the number of hashes. So, and as you can see, it's now a smaller heading, next heading size, and you can go on like that. And basically that's it for headings. So if you want to section things in your text, just using this alone will help you organize the notes in a much better way. So the other thing then is formatting the text itself. So text. So the two main ways of formatting text itself is basically bold or italic. So for bold, it's just 2 stars or two asterisks, I should say. So 1, 2, and at the end there, so it's just this word. You can use underlines as well, underscores. So 1, 2, 1, 2. So they're both those equally valid in Markdown. So it's basically just whatever your preference is, and whether you end up needing different characters for different ways in other situations. So if I change this, both these words individually bolded. And for italic, it's exactly the same, but you're just using one character, so just 1 asterisk. And easy to see here, so you have the bold and italic. And as you can see, even in this normal editing format, with all the Markdown itself, it's still pretty readable. Now it does a bit of formatting, so you can actually see that it's kind of formatting even in edit mode as well. But if you just open this in a plain text file, and in fact, I'll do that now. And open it. So if I was just to literally open this in Notepad as a text file, they have absolute plain text with no formatting, but you can still see it's actually quite readable. This isn't kind of hidden in any kind of obscure programming or tags or anything. It could be, depending on how complex you make it, but Markdown in the first instance is supposed to be really readable just in its plain text format. So the main other thing from that are, or the main use case I find are lists. So anything kind of bullet points, and it's just a hyphen or a dash. So a dash here, first one. And nice thing with Obsidian is that once it recognises you've started a list, it'll just insert the next hyphen for you when you press return. And these are bullet points, so if I was to look in preview, it actually shows them as bullet points. And this is an unordered list. If you want an ordered list with numbers, then you just start off with a number and point. So 1 dot, and this is my next list. And again, it will automatically add in the next number. And from here, you can actually have sub-items in the list. So return tab inwards, and same thing with the ordered list as well. If we look in here, again, just indented items. And that's all you basically need for just beginning Markdown. Anything else just becomes a little more advanced and only as you need it. You can insert pictures or files and embed things, but for the actual plain text itself, this is basically all you need. And that's just with pure Markdown. The more specific Obsidian features using Markdown, probably the most important thing, and one of the biggest reasons you even use Obsidian in the first place, are backlinks or internal linking or two-way linking. So this is kind of where all the kind of second brain productivity note-taking apps kind of coming into the fore, is with two-directional links, which basically means that if you add a link to another note, it knows that it's been linked. It's been linked from as well, so you get that two-directional linking, which is where the kind of graph comes in. So if I open the graph, I just have my single note here, so you don't really see very much. But I'm going to show that now by creating another couple of notes here. Just call this note 1 and note 2. Okay, so go back to my original file, and so this is probably the most important thing, even if you don't want to do any formatting at all with Markdown, so you can just ignore everything up until now in terms of Markdown. But this is the most useful part of Obsidian, and most note-taking apps like it, is the double square bracket. So if I just do a double square bracket, and it'll now come up with my list of notes that exist. So from here I can select note 1, and now I have a link to note 1. So I preview, I can actually click on this to go to my next note in note 1. And if we take a look at the graph, you can now see there's a link between them, inbox to note 1. And you can imagine this can then become far more complex as you go, finding links between different notes and different ideas. So again, I can just add it again, note 2, and if I go to the graph view, you can see we've now got this starting to build up a kind of map of your notes from here. So as I said, these are actual backlinks as well, so they're bidirectional, and you may not see it from this view or this one, where this just goes to, for example, note 1. But if I go to the more options menu here and open backlinks, should open another pane here, and this basically lists what is linking to this note. So you can see here that we know what's linking to it. So this is the power of backlinks, is that it's not just one way where I go to this note, I also know what's linking to this note. We have unlinked mentions here, which is unlinked mentions. But if I was to just simply mention, for example, discussion about note 1, then I go back, we now actually have an unlinked mentions as well. It recognises the same name of the note is used within the text itself. So it doesn't actually have to be an explicit link, depending if you just have a very generic name, of course, but you have the options to see both in both ways, whether it's directly linked or whether it's just mentioned. But either way, it's powerful that you're getting this two-way system of not only linking to notes, but seeing where they're linked from as well. And so that's basically possibly the most important formatting in Obsidian, are these double brackets. The next one, when you're kind of taking notes and wanting to highlight information, is to use the actual highlight Markdown as well, which isn't necessarily used everywhere for Markdown, but this is also like because it's used in Obsidian, probably the next most important Obsidian specific Markdown, and that uses a double equals sign. If I do double equals, and it's here, and that's it. Highlights what's everywhere. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and tell me in the comments what else you want to see me do in terms of Markdown or Obsidian features. Thanks for watching.